All right, everybody. Hey, thanks for joining me here tonight, and I'm glad you're with me. So let me just do a real quick, just checking in with y'all tonight. Thanks for joining me. So we're going to be talking a little bit about uh, this new exciting development that took place just last night. I was on my good friend's show, and we were talking about what was going to take place today as to whether we would be electing a new uh, Speaker of the House. That was on the Raul Reyes show. So let me get out of this screen. We're going to be, I'm just going to be showing you some stuff here. And, we, as you know, I like to kind of show you, pages and screens as I'm going along. And so we know that today it was a great development, and people are now jumping in to see who is Mike Johnson. He kind of snuck in a little bit under the radar for some people. Personally, I was aware of Mike Johnson because he was a congressman from Louisiana, along with Clay Higgins, and they're I think Scalise as well. But anyways, so I was very interested in reading the response, Higgins and Johnson, to the illegal aliens that were being flown out of Laughlin Air Force Base right here in Del Rio. That took place after our so-called Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez was approached by Alejandro Mayorkas, Border Patrol, to see if he would intervene, if he would be their intermediary with the Department of Defense to allow ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement flights, to depart from Laughlin Air Force Base loaded down with illegal aliens at the height of the COVID lockdowns here in America. And our government, because Tony Gonzalez did not have the spine, the backbone to say no, these illegal aliens were being flown into the heartland of America, and they were winding up all over. But I remember reading, finding out that they were landing in Alexandria, Louisiana. And so I was, reaching out to these congressmen's offices, just to for insight, for input, etc. So, anyways, that's how I kind of found out a little bit about who Mike Johnson was. So I'm going to be walking through some videos here today, and let's just listen to the commentary and everything. Now, and I'll be stopping and offering my input on this. I had to kind of change my title. I didn't want people to think that for some reason I was portraying that I would actually have, by no stretch of the imagination, the new speaker and Matt Gaetz anywhere near me. But and that's because just don't have the access to them. But of course, I love to do research. And so I came across some tidbits that I think you'll enjoy here. So let's just jump into the first one here. And so we're going to go from a general overview, and we're going to kind of drill down a little bit as to why I'm excited about this conservative speaker, and why I'm excited about Mike Johnson specifically, and what I think he will do for not just managing the House of Representatives, but what he will do as the leader for the Republican Party, who now has the majority in the speaker in the U.S. Congress and the House of Representatives. So what does that mean for America? And look, we are in it for the long haul, and we have to take these wins, but be sober-minded about them and be aware that these are small victories in these skirmishes, in these small battles. There is a war that is being fought, a cultural and social war and ideological war here in America, as we face very real prospects of actual, of danger throughout the world, as we look at to the Middle East, we look to Eastern Europe, etc. So anyways, let's just jump in, and I'm going to be sharing these screens with you. So we'll go to the first one. And it's just kind of an overview here. Let me bring this up. Let me just make sure that the volume is on for this video. So this is it. Share video, share. All right, here we go.
Here in the U.S., a breakthrough. The House of Representatives has a new speaker after 22 days of leaderless, gridlocked chaos following the ouster of former Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Mike Johnson of Louisiana won all 220 Republican votes cast earlier today. That's 20 more than the 3 prior GOP nominees managed on the floor or behind closed doors. After emerging from the leadership vacuum, Speaker Johnson said Congress must win back Americans' faith.
Their faith is at an all-time low. And one of the reasons they've lost it is because the Congress, over the years, has not delivered for the American people well enough. We're in the majority right now. We've gone through a little bit of suffering. We've gone through a little bit of character building. And you know what it's produced? More strength, more perseverance, and a lot of hope. And that's what we're about to deliver to the American people.
Yeah. Congressional.
So there you have it. Let me get out of this screen here, and we will stop that screen. And so that is why I'm excited, folks, because you've got to listen to the person, but also look at the record. And so as I'm looking at the comments here right now, I'm seeing where, like for instance, this one. Let me show you this one. And I'm not disparaging anybody, but I really don't know anything about him exactly. And so that is why, just like I did a few days ago, brought to you some information about the Texas constitutional amendment election, because it's out of a sense of, I guess, responsibility in a sense. If I have a platform and I've got folks that listen to my input and influence in a way, let's be useful and helpful, right? And so you're going to hear a lot of negative things in the liberal media, and even from some of the so-called conservative or right-wing or whatever you want to call them, news outlets. So you've got to do your research yourself and listen to this man, read up on him, study. But I am excited at this point, just because I'm already familiar with him. And so real quick, let me show you this screen, and we'll just kind of look at some things here. And of course, you can do your own research, and I always encourage you, trust but verify. And that's why I always try to make it a point to share things with you so that you can look at what I'm looking at and then go and do your own independent research. So if you go to just Mike Johnson, look for him, type it up, U.S. Congressman out of Louisiana. You're going to come up on his page, and you can go read about him, how to contact him, all this other stuff. And so this is what is of interest to me, the committees and subcommittees he's served on, within the totality of who Mr. Johnson is. So he's been on the Judiciary Committee, the chairman of the Subcommittee on Constitution and Limited Government. And you'll hear him referred to as a constitutional individual, constitutionalist, a constitutional scholar. And that is critical at this point in time, folks, as we see how the Constitution, for some segments of our population, they don't even know about it. Those that know are misconstruing it, trying to twist it, disregarding it. And for some, sad to say, it would be nothing more than toilet paper to them. As horrible as that imagery is, we are in serious trouble. And so we have to remember that we are a constitutional republic. Our founding fathers, were tremendously gifted and wise in the document that they crafted. And so that is one really good thing about him. And so let me take this off here. So let's jump in here. He's also been on the subcommittee on the administrative state, regulatory reform, and antitrust, the select committee on the weaponization of the federal government. And so this is, of course, important, folks, because look, we know that government is ever expanding, ever growing, ever encroaching, always seeking to gain more power into your personal life, to the point eventually where they want to know your thoughts and the intents of your heart and your mind. And they could read your mind. They would already be doing so. No doubt somewhere they are working on that very aspect. So that this is very important that he has that background. The Armed Services Committee, a strong America is a good America for the rest of the world. And so that this is important. The subcommittee on readiness, the subcommittee on sea power and projection forces. Very important. We could really drill down into what these entail. But if you go, just do your research, find this link. You can click on the hyperlinks and read up about it. The caucuses, the chairman, the Congressional Long Range Strike Caucus, the Republican Study Committee. We'll be talking about that a little bit here, but the Congressional Sportsman Caucus, Natural Gas Caucus, Western Working Forest, Congressional Coalition on Adoption Caucus. So that is very important for me, folks, as well, because we are on the verge here, I think, of a tremendous fallout. Look, our nation for too long has been murdering, slaughtering little children in the womb. And so one of the things that you will hear about is, why can't we focus more on adoption? And so they'll come up with, medical reasons, excuses, so forth, to have an abortion. One of the ones that you'll hear, no doubt, is the one about the health of the mother. And look, in this age of marvelous technology, there are surgical procedures now that are taking place in the womb, on the baby, on the fetus. And so, look, we need to, resolve in our nation to stop killing our children. And so that's why it's important for me that he is on the Congressional Coalition on Adoption. Now, one of the things that I'm very concerned about, folks, here, and let me jump out of here, is that there will always be an argument. And let me jump in here real quick, because I do want to show you this. One of the things I'm concerned about is that there will always be pushback, even within the Republican Party. And so the Congressional Caucus Coalition on Adoption Institute serves as an educational resource for members of Congress and their staff on issues related to adoption, foster care, child welfare, and permanency. They offer helpful information, resources, and opportunities to engage throughout the year. For me, folks, this is critical. We must preserve life. And so that's why I'm very outspoken also about what is happening in our border with children that are being smuggled into our country, children that are being lost in this mass movement of people that are winding up in the hands of sex traffickers and God knows what other type of person. And no doubt there's some, good folks in there as well. But, we have to be careful. We must preserve life. So this was of importance to me, of significance to me. And then you can just go down: Congressional Prayer Caucus, Second Amendment Caucus, House Air Force Border Security Caucus. So he's involved with these different groups. And I just have to believe that, knowing what I know of this man, these are important issues, and he takes these to heart, and he will definitely keep his finger on the pulse of things. So that's just kind of an overview here. You can go do the research yourself. Let's jump to the next here. Now I'm going to jump into the Republican Party platform in the state of Texas. And why am I doing that? Well, look, folks, I was the chairman for Valverde County as a Republican chairman for the executive committee for the party here in my home county in Texas, Del Rio. I was also the state Republican executive committee man for Senate District 19. And if you're familiar with that, there are 31 Senate districts in Texas. So there's a male-female committee person for each Senate district. So I was the committee man for Senate District 19. And so I've been involved with this. And so one of the reasons that I call myself a Republican, and now some folks are going to remember that I ran as an independent, as a constitutional conservative, because I was running against Tony Gonzalez, who I considered to be a disease on the Republican Party. And so I was performing some radical surgery here to get rid of the disease that had infiltrated the Republican Party, who is Tony Gonzalez, one of the most hated Republicans, and not just in the district or the state, but in the country, because of his obstructionism to border security, to impeaching Alejandro Mayorkas. He has also voted on legislation that was anti-constitutional, pertaining to a Second Amendment, pertaining to marriage, etc. And so he has been about bigger government, etc. So, anyways, I have been involved, and I am a Republican because I believe in the platform. Now, I was a law enforcement officer in the United States Army for 3 years, 30 years as a federal officer in the U.S. Border Patrol. I'm also an ordained minister. And so for me, the guides, whether it's policy or the United States Code or law or the ultimate guide, which is the Word of God, the Constitution, of course, the various documents of our founding and other historical. Anyways, for me, the written word is very important, folks. And so let me share this with you. And what does this have to do with our new Speaker of the House? Well, this is the platform and resolutions for the state of Texas. This was just adopted in our last conventional calendar year. And so if you were to go look at this document, it's online at the table of contents. These are the planks that give shape and meaning and define our party here in Texas. Now, for some of our elected officials, it's might as well be toilet paper to them. But for folks who believe in the written standards and the written mores and value system that our party derived from the written word, this is important to me. So let me just show you real quick. On here, you can go and read about, constitutional issues, finance, education, health and human services, criminal, civil justice, state affairs, government, elections, integrity, national defense, and foreign affairs. These are the topics. You can go research it if you're here in Texas. But let me show you here what is of great significance to me. And this is the preamble. And so here it says, affirming our belief in God, we still hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Throughout the world, people dare to dream of freedom and opportunity. The Republican Party of Texas unequivocally defends that dream. We strive to preserve the freedom given to us by God, implemented by our founding fathers, and embodied in the Constitution. We recognize that human nature is immutable. We further recognize that the traditional family is the strength of our nation. It is our solemn duty to protect life and develop responsible citizens. We understand that our economic success depends upon free market principles. And if we fail to maintain our sovereignty, we risk losing the freedom to live these ideals. And so for me, folks, to have a strong conservative Speaker of the House is music to my ears, and it is a joy to my heart, and it lifts up my spirit, and it greatly encourages me. It certainly does. So I would encourage you to go look up your state Republican platform and read the planks of your state Republican Party. And I tell this to folks who waffle back and forth or don't even know why they are Democrats. I tell them, have you ever read your Democrat platform and compare it to the Republican platform? So anyways, so this is important because in Mike Johnson, we have a man who, although not necessarily adhering to the Texas Republican platform, although I think you would like it, at least the preamble, he is a man of faith, and he is a conservative. Remember, a conservative is a person who is preserving traditions, of preserving the goodness, the essence of what has sustained a family, a society, a nation. And so America is great because America is good, and it has a lot to do with the providential establishment of our nation. Providential meaning the God-ordained and God's hand upon the establishment of our nation. I firmly believe that. And I think that history affirms it. And I also believe that the spirit within us confirms that. So let's jump into some video here so we can kind of talk about these things. And I want you to listen to what is being said by Mr. Johnson and what is also being said about Speaker Johnson. So let's roll the first one here. Jump in here. Going to share with audio, of course. Yep, with audio. Here we go. Make this large. Increase that. And
2,400.
We want to thank all the press for waiting. It's been quite a process.
What?
Democracy is messy sometimes, but it is our system. This conference that you see, this House Republican majority is united. I'm honored to have the support of my colleagues, and what they understand about this is servant leadership. We're going to serve the people of this country. We're going to restore their faith in this Congress, this institution of government. America is the last best hope of man on the earth. Abraham Lincoln said it. Ronald Reagan used to remind us all the time, and we're here to remind you of that again. We're going to restore your trust in what we do here. You're going to see a new form of government, and we are going to move this quickly. This group here is ready to govern, and we're going to govern well. We're going to do what's right by the people. And I believe that people are going to reward that next year. But we have a lot of big priorities ahead of us right now. The world is on fire. We stand with our ally, Israel. We have a very busy agenda. We have appropriations bills to get through the process, but you are going to see this group working like a well-oiled machine. We owe that to the American people. The people up here have been sent here by the people of this country to do this job, and we are going to do it well. We commit that to you. Thank you for allowing us to go through the process and get to this. It was worth it, and we are going to serve you well. The intention is to go to the House floor tomorrow and make this official, and so we will be doing that. And if there are any questions, we'll take a couple, but we're all pretty here. The intention is to go at noon tomorrow. Yeah, we have some folks absent, and I'll be working with them tonight.
Okay, folks. So let me stop that here. So you obviously you heard some things here, and that's why I'm saying, look, you'll be able to go and watch this several times, and then of course do your own research. But listen to the words. Listen to what is being said now. Look, many folks are cynical. They're burnt out. They're tired. There's no doubt people out there saying, "Oh man, just more politicians talking it." How can you tell politicians lie when they're opening your mouth? And I certainly get that sentiment. But look, folks, you've got to study a person and look at what they say, look at their actions. He has one of the most conservative voting records. Another indicator of a certain character gauge, I guess you could say, is how the liberal media is going ballistic about this guy. And so that is certainly an indicator as well. So I think this is a great news for us, and we're going to jump into some great things. Look, if you have children, high schoolers, middle school, and even some of the younger, kids that have the, more awareness, depending on how advanced they are. These past few months have really been very interesting, and certainly as we look at what's happening in the world, the geopolitical implications of decisions being made by our elected officials, and now we are seeing. I think there is a movement. There is an awakening in America. People are realizing, and this was part of my stump speech and part of my. Whenever I was gathering petitions, signatures for my petition to run back in 2022, this is what I would say, and I believe it, and I know it to be true, and I know you this to be true. You also know this to be true, that politicians make decisions that impact our daily lives. They impact our homes. They impact our families. These decisions impact our ability to provide for our family. They impact our ability to live happy, fulfilled, prosperous lives here in America. And so when you have evil persons, when you have people who do not have a moral spine, who are, basically immoral, who are, corrupt internally in their character, that will come out in the decisions they make, and particularly for our elected officials, the way they vote, and it impacts all of us. And so that is why I'm very excited about Mike Johnson. And look, I'm going to say it as a Christian, as an ordained minister, I love the fact that this man is invoking the name of God. That is what is wrong. We have erased God from society as much as possible. The left, the socialists, the globalists, the godless have tried to erase God from our society. And you reap what you sow. And so I am so encouraged. And of course, we'll be praying for this man, Mike Johnson, that he stays true. And I have no doubt to believe that he would stray from his faith, from his covenant marriage to his wife. And I have no reason to doubt at all that he would not be thinking of not just his children, but the way that Congress impacts the lives of all children in America. So let's jump into this next video here. And I'm going to show you this. This is where he takes the oath. So I thought this was inspirational. And as we're looking at these videos, folks, let me just remind you of this, that words have power, words have effect. And what do I mean by that? Look, the founding of our nation was partly due to, people of faith who believed the word of God, the written word. And people responded to pulpits in churches across this new land that were on fire with righteousness and with truth and with servitude to your fellow man, out of a heart who communed with God. And so that is what made our nation great and blessed. And so as we have strayed as a nation away from that, to the point of atrocities to children, it is so encouraging, so powerful, so hopeful to have a man who openly invokes God and presents his faith in God. That's going to drive people crazy, but praise God for a man like Mike Johnson. So let's show you this video here. And we're going to go to the oath that he took upon getting sworn in. Let me enlarge this. And here we go.
I'm now ready to take the oath of office. And I ask the Dean of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Harold Rogers of Kentucky, to please administer the oath of office.
And so listen real quickly, folks, to this historical context that is presented by this gentleman who is going to administer the oath. Listen to his word and the historical references he makes, because a society is the product of its narratives, the stories it tells, and before the written word, narratives were passed, values were passed on through the stories that the parents, the grandparents, the elders told the children, the young people. Their values were portrayed in their stories. And so it is very important that we have a historical context and a biblical context. And that is a part of why America is that city in the shining hill, why we have been so blessed and we have been a force for good in the world. But here, let's go on with this.
Mr. Speaker Designee, congratulations on your election.
Thank you, sir.
When our founding fathers chose a bold, new, and innovative new self-rule government, it was met by deep skepticism by the world's monarchs. They said self-rule is only a dream. Our founders said they're right. It's the American dream.
Amen.
Now it's our dream. We're in charge. The speakership of the United States House of Representatives is the crucial outpost for the well-being of the people's government, the keeper, if you will, of the dream. Sir, If you wish to assume this awesome responsibility, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which you are about to enter. So help you God.
I do, so help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Do you own your home in Texas? But
Jeez, let me get out of there. So, all right, folks. So there you have it. Look, he took the oath, but I wanted you to listen to that gentleman. It's important to keep those values going, whether it's written in imagery, in video form, in the spoken word. We have got to continue that, because those are the anchors of a society. That is what holds us down, and what makes us uniquely America, the greatest nation on the face of the earth. And that is part of that reason is because of the blessings we have derived, but also because this way of thinking, this ideology which derived from Western thinking, great writers, etc., philosophers, etc., the Bible, etc., it is what sets us apart, and that it has been weakened, detrimental and devastating ideologies have crept in. They have overtaken our institutions, whether it's the military, education, economic, etc., government, etc. Globalists, affiliated thinking and ideologies have crept into every aspect of our lives. And when I say globalists, I'm talking about godless ideologies and beliefs, and people who adhere to those beliefs and act accordingly to those beliefs. And so one of the other things I'd like for you to listen to here is and I'm missing a video here. Golly, I need to find this video real quick. As we're listening to Matt Gaetz, I'm gonna bring the screen. Bring him on screen here. As you're listening to him, I'm gonna be looking at this other video that I wanted to show you. And if you just give me a quick second, actually, let me just find that, because I did want to give these to you in order. And it has to do with when he came out and gave his first press conference. Let me see if I can find that here. He gave it outside when he stepped outside to the press. And so I will have to search through this real quick. And I can't believe oh, here it is. Okay, 6 hours. Yep, here it is. Let me bring this one up. Okay, I'm going to present it to you now. Thanks for bearing with me. There it is. Awesome. Okay, so he's going to be introduced by several people here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to speed through this. I want to get to the meat of this, and then we'll be listening to Matt Gaetz. But let's jump on this. And now what I'm going to do, let me scroll through this real fast. Yep, right about here. This is very important, and I want you to listen for some words: stewardship, servant leadership. Look, folks. And I'm not too sure if he says it in this one, but those are concepts for me that are very important. Stewardship, first of all, as a representative, a person is charged with acting with due diligence and acting as wise stewards, wise upholders, custodians of the people's trust, and custodians of the people's business. And representatives are supposed to act as wise money managers and be able to, wisely to ensure that the tax dollars of the hardworking American people are being used wisely, not on pet projects, and certainly not being sent over to corrupt people like Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and other areas that giving money to fund wars in places we don't need to be in because there is a greedy war machine. And face it, folks, there is money to be made in death and destruction and displacement of people, orphans, etc., as a result of war. So they're supposed to be good stewards and wise stewards. The other thing is servant leadership. For some reason, people, when they become elected, when they get elected, they have achieved some position. They become big fish in a little swimming pool. It goes to their head, and they forget that it is the Lord that places them there, that allows that to happen. And they are supposed to be servant leaders. They forget that. I actually, when I was in the Border Patrol, I was putting together the U.S. Border Patrol chaplaincy program. And one of the functions I envisioned for the chaplaincy program within the Border Patrol too was a class on servant leadership for new supervisors, so that they would get it was called old school, etc. But servant leadership is very important because you remember that you're only as good as a team around you. And when you have good people working for you and are happy to work for you and are part of the team and know they're part of the team and are valued to be part of the team, they will work harder, more productively, they will be more loyal. And so servant leadership is great because, and it is a powerful concept because you put others first, and you know that your success is based on their success. And it also incorporates into it humility. And so when people get elected, it seems like they lose that humility, or whether it was even there to begin with. And so they allow that power, the position, the prestige, the popularity to go to their head. They become arrogant, they lose focus, they lose touch. And so I believe that, Mr. Johnson, as he speaks about these issues, I sense that humility, and there is a reference to servant leadership in here somewhere in one of these videos, but these are very welcome concepts for me. And when put into practice, they can be very powerful, very effective, optimizing the proficiency and the effectiveness of government. So here we go with this video. Let's throw it on here. So let's enlarge the screen and let's listen. Hey, get out of here.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you, Tom and Elise. This is an extraordinary team that has been assembled here to serve the American people. Steve Scalise represents so much in our home state of Louisiana. One of the things he truly represents is perseverance and hope. And as he was talking here just a moment ago, I was reminded of the scripture that says suffering produces perseverance, perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. What we need in this country is more hope. The people have lost their faith in our institutions. Their faith is at an all-time low. And one of the reasons they've lost it is because the Congress, over the years, has not delivered for the American people well enough. We're in the majority right now. We've gone through a little bit of suffering. We've gone through a little bit of character building. And you know what it's produced? More strength, more perseverance, and a lot of hope. And that's what we're about to deliver to the American people. Yeah. We're going to speak with clarity and conviction and consistency to the American people. We're going to tell them what we're for, what agenda we are pursuing, and why it is best for every American, why it will give them more liberty, opportunity, and security. We're going to speak to that clearly. We're going to act consistently, and we're going to exhibit two things here: trust and teamwork. And this group will deliver for the American people. I said it in the chamber, and I will say it here. We're going to govern well. And I think the people are going to be very pleased with those results. We're so grateful. I'm so grateful and so humbled to have gotten a unanimous vote on the floor by all of my colleagues here. we went through a lot to get here, but we are ready to govern, and that will begin right away. You've all heard me talk a lot today, and I'm not going to belabor the point because the sun is bright and it's too warm for the fall. But I'll say this. We're going to dispense with all the usual ceremonies and celebrations that traditionally follow a new speakership because we have no time for either one. The American people's business is too urgent in this moment. The hour is late, the crisis is great. In America, we hear you. And we are reporting again, as I said in there, to our duty stations. That will begin in just a few moments. This entire group is going to go back to the House floor, and we are going to pass our resolution in support of the nation of Israel, our closest ally in the Middle East.
Awesome.
You're going to see an aggressive schedule in the days and weeks ahead. You're going to see Congress working as hard as it's ever worked, and we are going to deliver for the American people. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I want to thank you for being patient with us, and I promise you it'll be worth it. God bless you. God bless you.
Awesome. Let's go to work. He said. So he said, let's go to work. And so, look, folks, as I'm reading the comments here, somebody said, I guess I've been black-pilled, kind of cynical. Hey, look, I get it. I get it. It's so hard. But we have to hold on to that hope. We have to hold on to that belief. We have to have some measure of trust. And so it is a clean slate with this House. And certainly, as vigorous and as enthusiastic as I am about this, will be certainly as vigorous and probably more robustly, apt to hold Mr. Johnson accountable if he starts failing us. But our prayer is that he doesn't. Our prayer is that he is a man of faith who will, stiffen his spine in the face of peer pressure, intimidation, and temptation. That he will be strong in his faith, stiffen his spine, and he will hold fast to his marriage covenant and to his children and this nation's children. That is what we need for such a time as this. So let me close this one out here, and we're going to jump in on this video by Matt Gaetz. It's a little bit lengthy. I'm going to stop it in here, but it's certainly worth your while. It is certainly, listen to this guy, folks. He's going to give us some insight into what took place behind closed doors, and you may notice that he's kind of charged up, and I understand why. He was taking a beating for his decision to move to get rid of Kevin McCarthy, and good riddance, honestly, to Kevin McCarthy. We know what he was. We know what he did. He got elected a bunch of infiltrators into the Republican Party. He got a lot of money to push people like Tony Gonzalez into positions. And look at the mess we have on the 823 miles of CD23 border, where we have a congressman who is backed by McCarthy, who has betrayed us, who has been a traitor, who has not upheld the Constitution, has violated the word of God, and has been a contributor to the danger that children are being placed into. It was a contributor, Tony Gonzalez was and has been, to the influx of these illegal aliens into our country. He is in bed with the non-government organizations. And I have spoken about this extensively. And so that's why I say good riddance to Kevin McCarthy. And let's jump into this video. You're going to notice that Matt is up on what took place, and I believe rightfully so. And let's hear it in his own words here. So let's present this screen. I'm going to show this right here, share, enlarge this, and play.
Continue to allow the Uniparty to run this town without a fight.
I want to thank you, Matt Gaetz, for holding the line.
Matt Gaetz is a courageous man. If we had hundreds of Matt Gaetz in D.C., the country turns around. It's that simple.
He's so tough. He's so strong. He's smart, and he loves this country. Matt Gaetz.
It is the honor of my life to fight alongside each and every one of you. We will save America. It's choose your fighter time. Send in the firebrands.
Welcome back to Firebrand. I'm Congressman Matt Gaetz. We're broadcasting live out of room 2021 of the House Office Rayburn Building at the Capitol Complex in Washington, D.C. This is an exciting and special episode of Firebrand because we've got a Speaker of the House, MAGA Mike Johnson, a brilliant constitutional scholar, a family man, a devout Christian Southern Baptist, a fellow from Louisiana, someone I was elected to Congress alongside, someone who sits literally next to me in the House Judiciary Committee. We work together on the Armed Services Committee to make sure that our military is protected, that we are strong, and that we are not overburdened by endless foreign wars without any goal or purpose or vision. I cannot tell you how excited and vindicated I feel that Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House right now. I made all of you a promise when we filed the motion to vacate that we would have a Speaker of the House who was more conservative and more honest. And we have checked those boxes thoroughly with electing Speaker Mike Johnson of Louisiana. Such a great guy, such a great father, such a great husband. He's got a terrific wife, Kelly Johnson. And I want to give you a little taste first of his first remarks as House Speaker. Here's Mike Johnson.
So real quick, I do want to jump in here and say something, folks. So people were, man, if they could have tarred and feathered Matt Gaetz, they would have. If they could have drug him through the streets of D.C., they would have. He even offered up and said, you want me out of here? You know, I'm willingly giving myself up. You know, you get me out of here. But you know, he was being ridiculed and said, you know, hey, the man with no plan, et cetera. But you heard right here, we got a more conservative and honest and truthful and moral person than Kevin McCarthy. And people got mad at Matt Gaetz for this one thing. Think about it, folks. When the rules package was being put together early 2023, one of the sticking points was that there would be a motion to vacate. A one person could say, Speaker of the House, you are not doing your job. And so submitting a motion to vacate the speakership of the House. And so he invoked that, but only after McCarthy broke his promises. He went back on his word. And so in essence, people were mad at Matt Gaetz because he dared to hold an elected official accountable. I mean, think about that. He dared to hold him accountable. And so the sky started to fall on people's head. And there was all this hysteria and panic. Look, there's one thing I've learned, folks, is government is going to function. And I even said this myself at times. Look, I was not even fully retired from the Border Patrol, and already people were vying for my position, for my supervisory position. There were people already, betting on who was going to get it after I left. When I was up in Washington, D.C., I was an assistant chief up in Washington, D.C., and it was time for me to come home. I had decided to come back home to Texas, and one of my friends, a fellow classmate, pulled me aside by the elevators and said, "Man, are you sure, Frank? I mean, you're giving up this position, and it's going to impact your career." And I told him, you know what? The moment I leave this place, there will be people lined up, dozens of other Border Patrol agents that are going to line up for this position. And so I left. I came back home to Texas, and the job was still accomplished, folks. And so it was interesting to see the way that people were just, it was all doom and gloom because we had no speaker. And part of my thinking was, in the meantime, was, well, I mean, at least we're not spending money like crazy and giving it to corrupt people, corrupt foreign government officials like the Ukraine. So anyways, let's jump in. Sorry to break the stride there, but I just wanted to throw in my thoughts real quick. And so here we go.
Johnson. To my colleagues, I want to thank you all for the trust that you have instilled in me to lead us in this historic and unprecedented moment that we're in. The challenge before us is great, but the time for action is now, and I will not let you down.
Wells Fargo ha donado $525 millones.
I don't know why I get Spanish. I don't know why I get Spanish commercials, folks. Maybe it's because I live here on the border. It does bug me that YouTube always throws in this Spanish language commercials. I understand what they're saying, but it's like, hey, I never clicked on a button or anything. So here we go. Let's watch
now
it.
available.
I want to say to the American people, on behalf of all of us here, we hear you. We know the challenges you're facing. We know that that there's a lot going on in our country, domestically and abroad, and we are ready to get to work again to solve those problems, and we will. Our mission here is to serve you well, to restore the people's faith in this House, in this great and essential institution.
We are back live, and I have a high confidence level, and it seems based on the comments, so do you. Rosella Jerome on Facebook saying, I love the new speaker. We see the great Mike Johnson, a lot of America First energy. And I would agree with our Rumble commenter who said McCarthy looked pissed. Yeah, I think he probably did. We're going to get to all the things that Kevin McCarthy did to try to scuttle this moment and sabotage Mike Johnson and really all of us in just a minute. But I want to get to the plan, because it's not just about the man, it's about the plan. Today, hot off the presses, we get a letter from House Speaker Mike Johnson regarding the path forward for the Congress. Go ahead and put that up on the screen for me, and I'll read you part of this message from the Speaker. We must take action right away. I would begin by proposing the following immediate steps concerning our unfinished appropriations bills and our schedule for the remainder of this Congress. We all understand that our next speaker must be prepared to negotiate from a position of strength with the Democrat-controlled Senate and the White House. The only way to secure that position is for the House to have passed all 12 of our appropriations measures. I am confident we can work together to accomplish that objective quickly in a manner that delivers on our principled commitments to rein in wasteful spending and put our country back on a path to fiscal responsibility. He continues with a detailed calendar description that we will do the energy and water appropriations bills this week. We will do interior, environment, transportation, and the legislative branch next week. We will do criminal justice thereafter. And then in the week of November 13th, we will do the Department of Labor, Department of Health and Human Services, and Ag as well. This is an actual plan centered around single subject spending bills. It's a plan that doesn't require us to surrender to omnibus legislation or continuing resolutions that lead to more continuing resolutions. I had some reporters ask me today, oh, well, if Mike Johnson needs some sort of bridge government funding bill, will you oust him if he needs that? And we will not apply the exact same standard to Mike Johnson that we applied to Kevin McCarthy, because Kevin McCarthy was so insincere and duplicitous about what he was doing. Consider this. Kevin McCarthy tried to sell us the fiction that he wanted the same thing, the single subject spending bills. But then he sent us home for 6 weeks in August when we were behind on our work. You don't take a vacation when you're behind on your work. Everyone knows this. And in Mike Johnson's memo that I just detailed for you, for the month of August, he says this: do not break for district work period unless all 12 appropriations bills have passed the House. So don't plan on your big vacation in the month of August next year under Mike Johnson if we have not completed the work. Nothing could be more invigorating to our team than unity with purpose. You've heard Republicans go on all kind of media platforms to say, oh, we just need unity. Gates is crazy and has no plan. This was the plan. Give you an honest conservative speaker who will actually do the single subject appropriations bills.
Yes.
And we got our guy. But we didn't get him without a fight. And that's what I want to talk about now. Let's go ahead and put up the the endorsement tweet from Kevin McCarthy. This from former Speaker McCarthy. At Rep. Mike Johnson is a friend, a fighter, and a principled conservative who can get the job done. He has my full support as Speaker. We'll keep working together to put our country first and fulfill our commitment to America. All right, here's what happened.
All right, here we go.
We're in these rounds trying to elect a speaker, and Steve Scalise gets put up, and McCarthy helps knife Scalise. And then Jordan gets put up, and McCarthy helps knife Jordan. And then Emmer gets put up. He can't get there. And so Mark Molinaro, a moderate freshman Republican from New York, stands up and makes sort of an obvious but yet still out of the box suggestion after Tom Emmer had withdrawn from the speaker contest yesterday. Molinaro said, look, why don't we just take a poll to see where people stand on the guy who came in second to Emmer, who was Mike Johnson, and see if that's someone we could rally behind. And to do that, to take that path, we needed unanimous consent from all the members. Guess which member objected? Kevin McCarthy. In an emotional, eruptive outburst, I object. We can't elect a speaker this way. You know why Kevin McCarthy objected? Because he hadn't quite figured out how he could scuttle and sabotage Mike Johnson. Johnson saw it. I saw it. The whole conference saw it. Then he wasn't done, because as Mike was working to bring together the coalition, as he was gelling our team, McCarthy inspired a write-in campaign to get people to vote for McCarthy. He even got 43 Republicans. Now, they told us they were going to get 100 Republicans, 120 Republicans to write in McCarthy. He found out that his strength has withered as he has dithered. And McCarthy got these 43 votes. And so Johnson, being the total, I think, sophisticated thinker that he is, along with Steve Scalise, said, well, if we've got 43 people still voting for McCarthy, let's have a roll call. Let's see if those 43 members will stand up and say they still want McCarthy back and suffer the ridicule that would have brought down on them, rightfully.
So let me jump in here real quick and just say something about that, folks. So he's telling us about what was happening, behind closed doors as they were deliberating on the process of selecting the Republican speaker nominee designate. And so what's interesting here, and this is, part of the way I would approach this, is you have to go in and you have to learn the process. You have to learn the rules and the way things function, because there are times when you have to be a disruptor. There are times when you have to throw a wrench into the works. And that is exactly what Matt Gaetz did now. People who don't understand that got all hysterical and crazy, etc. And they did the same thing when they were demanding, pushing for certain elements of the rules package, which our congressman here in Texas, Tony Gonzalez, voted against. But it had that key motion to vacate. And then also, it is what they did. They used a small number of people to get Kevin McCarthy to a point to where he agreed to the rules package. And it all came about, folks, with a perspective of, look, Kevin McCarthy is going to be a true swamp beast. He's going to revert. He's going to say all the right things to get the votes to become the Speaker of the House. But he's going to revert to his swamp creature ways. And that's how they snagged him. And as you're listening to what Matt Gaetz is talking about here, even as he had already been dethroned per se, he was still moving. And what he said is he knifed Scalise's attempt to become the speaker. He went and cut and took the feet out, the knees out from Jordan. And then Emmer didn't get through, and he objected. What Matt Gaetz just said is that he was the only one to object to the roll call to see who was gonna how people were gonna vote. And it's because, like Matt Gaetz just said, he didn't have a time to formulate. See, Kevin McCarthy had been there 16 years, and so he knows how to operate the system. And what you need are smart people. Somebody in a previous segment said, if we had 100 Matt Gaetz, we'd go in there and really turn things around. And that's what we need to do, is send to Congress people who go in with an understanding that there are times when you have to be a disruptor. You're not going to go up there just to be a yes man. You're going to go to do the work of the people. And at times you've got to revert to what I would call guerrilla style tactics. You get inside the machine and you disrupt the normal business, but you do it using the system against itself. And you got to be strategic. You've got to be intelligent. You got to be creative. And so I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents here as Matt was narrating to us what took place behind closed doors.
And those 43 votes, when we went to a roll call, withered to nothing. Not a single person voted for Kevin McCarthy publicly, even though they were willing to do it anonymously in private in a secret meeting. After Mike Johnson was designated, it's typical for the speaker designate to go out to the microphones and address the media about their plans, their vision, their prevailing in the designation election. And Mike was the first one who said, no, I'm not leaving this room and going out in front of the cameras. You're all going to stand here with me, and we will invite them in, and we will do this as a team, all united together. And he began that press conference in humble and sincere prayer. It was so touching to see this man of God with one hand on the Bible, with one hand raised, talking about how we can fulfill America's great vision together. And it is an America First vision. It is a strong America vision, but it is an America First vision, and one I definitely share. Now, there are some who put some funny stuff on the internet. Sasha, go ahead and put up the Matt Gaetz apology form. So if you're listening and not watching, who was this? What account was it? World Mapping on Twitter puts together the Matt Gaetz apology forms. This is to Matt Gaetz from the American people, date October 24th, 2023. Reason for behavior. The media convinced me that a motion to vacate was a bad thing. You could check that. Or maybe you would check, I miss Kevin McCarthy. Or I was jealous of MAGA gaining power. Or I thought you were playing actual games. Remember when they kept saying that on me? Matt Gaetz is just playing games. This is all personal. You could also check, I don't know anything about the House. Or my personal favorite, you could check the box that just says Mercury was in retrograde. So if that's the reason you were mad at me, we will forgive you. Very, very funny form. And it's always amazing to see what the internet will generate. One thing that Speaker Mike Johnson has generated has been a lot of intense, rigorous oversight of some of the worst people in the United States federal government. The clip I am about to show you is Mike Johnson questioning Attorney General Merrick Garland. And I say this without reservation. What you are about to watch is the most effective questioning that any member has engaged in this Congress with any witness. And I do not say that lightly, because I think I'm pretty good at asking tough questions of people who don't want to give honest answers. But there is nothing like what you're about to watch. So what was going on at the time, you had critical race theory sweeping across school boards and curriculum offices in public education all over the country. And then Garland has to deal with the fact that his own son-in-law is making money off of critical race theory, while then Garland is going after the parents who are complaining about it. It is so epic and so good. It is peak Mike Johnson. Take a listen and enjoy.
So real quick, folks, as we get ready to listen to Mike Johnson going after Attorney General here, keep some things in mind. I mean, this is the style of congressman that we need, the style of representative, not somebody that's just all of a sudden stars in their eyes, enamored with the fact that they've been elected, and it goes to their head and they become arrogant, they lose their focus. You need steely-eyed warriors, fighters, people that understand that there is a corruption issue. There's a decrepit state of being in Washington, and you've got to go with the resolve to go and clean it out, even if it means you're going to get dirty, you're going to get nasty, it's going to get ugly, you're going to be attacked. You cannot afford to send representatives who are just after a title, prestige, and a position, and they can't handle that. You need people that are humble, because when you are humble, you know that God is just right there, and you can get knocked off your high horse in a moment. And so it is interesting that the way he portrays this, you have to be an attack dog when you are the steward of the people's trust as a representative, you are the steward of the budget. You are a steward who is overseeing that the functions of government are being correctly executed and morally executed. And you cannot afford to allow even a moment of wavering in that endeavor. And that is a big, huge responsibility. It's not something to be taken lightly. And just as a personal note here, as I've been contemplating running for office, it comes with that knowledge that there is a tremendous responsibility that is placed upon your shoulders, and you have got to be ready for that. Prayerfully, armored with the armor of truth, with the armor of light, prepared for that kind of spiritual battle. Because right now we're looking at a second critical race theory, and we know, folks, that here in America, in the United States and throughout the world, but here, mainly here, ideology, woke ideology has crept into every aspect of our society and even into our own families. And so this is an evil that must be fought intelligently, precisely, surgically, and with the attack dog mentality, in a sense of when you know there's a thread there, you grab that thread and you unravel it. You are getting to the truth. And so you need people that are capable of that, that are focused and are not in it just for the glitz and the glamour, the fame and the money. And so here, let's jump into this and watch this.
Mr. Attorney General, millions of Americans are deeply concerned today that instead of addressing the most pressing issues facing our country, we're watching the Biden-Garland Justice Department be weaponized, that you are using your authorities now to advance far-left policies and attack Republican-led state actions and erode constitutional norms. The most recent case in point has been brought up this morning. Your memorandum directing the FBI and other Department of Justice officials to get involved in local school board debates. It concerns us that it was issued just 5 days after the National School Board Association sent a letter to President Biden which referred to concerned parents as the equivalent of, quote, domestic terrorists and perpetrators of hate crimes, unquote. Given the timing of all this, your memo appears to have been motivated by politics more than any pressing federal law enforcement need. This is concerning to us, and it's worthy of investigation. It also concerns us that your actions may have been motivated by your family's financial stake in this issue. Published reports show that your son-in-law co-founded a company called Panorama Education. We now know that that company publishes and sells critical race theory and so-called anti-racism materials to schools across the country. And it works with school districts nationwide to obtain and analyze data on students, often without parental consent. On its website, the company brags that it's surveyed more than 13 million students in the U.S. It's raised $76 million from powerful investors, including people like Mark Zuckerberg, just since 2017. My first question is this: are you familiar with Title V of the Code of Federal Regulations, which addresses the rules of impartiality for executive branch employees and officials?
I am very familiar with it, and I want to be clear once again that there's nothing in this memorandum which has any effect on the kinds of curriculums that are taught or the ability of parents to complain about the kinds of...
I understand your position on the free speech of parents.
Position, it is
wait just a minute. The question is, the thing that has concerned many of those parents that are showing up at these school board meetings, the very basis of their objection and their vigorous debate, as you mentioned earlier, is the curricula, the very curricula that your son-in-law is selling. So to millions of Americans, I mean, my constituents, I was home all weekend, I got an earful about this. They're very concerned about that. Subpart E of that federal regulation says an employee of the executive branch is discouraged from engaging in conduct that's likely to affect the financial interest of someone close to them. Your son-in-law, your daughter, clearly meets that definition. And so the question is, did you follow that regulation? Did you have the appropriate agency ethic official look into this? Did you seek guidance as the federal regulation requires?
This memorandum is aimed at violence and threats of violence.
Understand that, but did you seek ethics counsel before you issued a letter that directly relates to the financial interest of your family? Yes or no?
This memorandum does not relate to the financial interests of anyone. It's against.
I take that as a no. I take that as a no.
Memorandum is against violence and threats of violence. I don't know.
Will you, Mr. Attorney General, will you commit to having the appropriate ethics designee review the case and make the results public?
This memorandum is aimed at violence and threats of violence.
I understand your talking point. You're not answering my question, Mr. Attorney General. With all due respect, will you submit to an ethics review of this matter, yes or no?
There's no company in America, or hopefully no law-abiding citizen in America, who believes that threats of violence should not be prevented. There are no conflicts of interest that anyone could have.
According to you, but sir, with due respect, that's the purpose of the federal regulation. We need objective third parties to review our activities. You don't get to make that decision yourself. It doesn't matter. You're the chief law enforcement of this country. This raises questions in the minds of millions of Americans, and your impartiality is being called into question. Why would you not submit to a simple ethics review of that?
I am exquisitely aware of the ethics requirements.
But you're not following them.
I have followed them and lived with them for the last 25 years.
Did you seek an ethics review of this or not?
I'm going to say again, there are no conflicts of interest involved when the Justice Department.
Okay. According to you, I got that. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but you are not respecting our rules, our constitutional norms, and the federal law that directly applies to your activities. This is a great concern. This is why people are losing faith in our institutions. They're losing faith in this Department of Justice. And you and I both know, as constitutional attorneys, that if the people lose their faith in our system of justice, if they lose their faith in the idea that justice is blind, that there are not two standards, that there's one standard of the law, and that every
time of the gentleman has expired.
Wow. So I just got to jump in here. Look, that was so much meat in there. You're going to have to go back and watch this several times. You've got to understand, have a constitutional awareness of some kind. And we're certainly all of us could use, constant updating and just the reading of that in addition to the Word of God, etc. But it is so inspiring for me personally just to see a person who's so masterful and who understands that the sword they're yielding, that the words that he is using are cutting to the really deep and significant issues and are speaking to the elephants in the room, that, getting to the meat of the matter and exposing and hanging on to that. That's why I was referring to this attack dog, behavior or attitude, in that you're gonna grab on to that little nugget and you're gonna hold on to it because you are trying to expose something, you are trying to speak the truth, you're trying to, throw back the cover, because you saw it. I mean, he's just throwing up his talking points and he's just dodging and weaving. And so you need people who are going to be persistent, in focus, on target, and who are capable of doing that. And so for me, it's fascinating. And it would be really great to get elected to office and go rub elbows, learn from people such as these. But let's jump into this.
Oh, the time of the gentleman has indeed not expired. It is only getting started from the speaker's rostrum. I will definitely miss Mike Johnson sitting next to me in the House Judiciary Committee, really leaning into the important work that needs to be done. And there is some criticism of me still that I am getting in the way of that work. Matrix on Getter says, all Matt Gaetz has done is ensure that there'll be no impeachment hearings and the Bidens walk. Here's what I would ask you. How are the impeachment hearings going under Kevin McCarthy? Because what I saw was one impeachment hearing that began with the best Republican witness saying that he didn't believe our evidence supported impeachment. So that's what you get with someone like Kevin McCarthy and his experience trying to guide this, when the reality is, with a brilliant litigator and lawyer and constitutional scholar like Mike Johnson, you're going to see us move at, I think, a lot more effective pace, and with a lot more just proficiency that you hadn't seen under Kevin McCarthy. So judge us by the work of the Johnson speakership, if not the reputation and the skill set that you just saw on display as he was skewering Merrick Garland. Terry on Facebook says she never doubted me. I understand we are having some technical difficulties with the Facebook stream right now. You can always watch us on Rumble. That's our favorite platform for viewing if Facebook is freezing up on you a little bit. And Sydney on Facebook says McCarthy's pants were pulled down. It wasn't pretty, but it had to happen. Well, thank you for that frightening image, Sydney. There was also great discussion during the race for House Speaker and in Speaker Johnson's speech on the floor about the border. We have got to get the border under control because when these millions of people come into the country, it becomes unidirectional. Not enough are going back home. And frankly, until we get the White House, the Biden administration is able to ameliorate any effort that we put forward to try to secure the border. But you got to have somebody who understands the border, not the border between K Street and the Capitol, but the border between the United States and Mexico.
So real quick, you've got to have somebody that understands the border, folks. So that is definitely part of the reason that I am definitely moving towards, a full-blown, that I'm running for Congress, folks, because we have to have an understanding of the border. And so we need somebody that that is just not going to go down there for photo opportunities, and going to, just read talking points off a sheet, but somebody who understands the way that the Department of Homeland Security works from within, somebody that understands the way that the Border Patrol works, and ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, and Office of Field Operations, which is the legacy customs agencies at the ports of entry. And so also, being aware of policies and procedures to go and put on the hot seat people like Alejandro Mayorkas. And remember, Alejandro Mayorkas is the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and he is a total globalist. I knew it from the moment that he was nominated to work in the Biden administration. So, anyways, part of the thing here is you've got to have somebody who is aware of that, knows how to ask the right questions, and be willing to hold these people accountable. Make them uncomfortable as possible, but get to the truth so that if anything, the American people can be aware. And there are different avenues. You've got to look at the entrenched, the deep state. You've got to look at these career employees. The Senior Executive Series, the SES series, is something that has to be looked at, because once these people get into those positions, they're in it for life. They're going to get a very huge pension as a result of that, but they make decisions, and the Senior Executive Series persons are usually at the top of agencies, and their decisions affect a lot of people and their application of policy, etc. So it is critical to look at these people, and in this case, Matt here is going to be Mr. Mike Johnson is going to be talking with Alejandro Mayorkas. And I tell you, he's a Secretary of the Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security, and talk about a weasel kind of rat type of person. You're going to see it with your own eyes here. Let's show this.
And Mike Johnson showed that in his questioning of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas, who undeniably deserves censure, impeachment, ending his salary. He deserves every consequence that the United States Congress can bring to bear. Take a listen to Mike Johnson questioning Secretary Mayorkas.
Can you define what misinformation is?
Congressman, misinformation is false information that is disseminated to...
Excellent. Who determines what is false?
Congressman, our focus...
No, who determines what is false in your agency? If you're going to pull something off the internet and collude with a social media platform to make sure Americans don't see it, who determines what's false?
Congressman, we don't do that.
That's not true. That is not true. That is not what the court has found. This is not a Republican talking point. This is what the documents show. We've had people testify under oath that say, and you just defined the term, you're telling me that you don't know who determines what is false?
Congressman, what we do at CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, is identify the tactics that adverse nation states use to weaponize disinformation.
Okay, what is
The American
disinformation? What is disinformation?
Disinformation is inaccurate information.
Who determines what's inaccurate? Who determines what's false? Do you understand the problem here? The reason the framers of our Constitution did not create an exception for quote unquote false information from the First Amendment is because they didn't trust the government to determine what it is. And you have whole committees of people in your agency trying to determine what they define as false or misinformation.
That is not true.
Well, then what is true?
What we
Please
do
enlighten us.
is what we do is we disclose the tactics that adverse nation states are utilizing to weaponize
No, sir.
information.
No, sir. The court found specifically, it's a finding of fact that is not disputed by the government defendants, the Biden administration, your agency, the FBI, or DHS, not in the litigation. They determined you and all of your cohorts made no distinction between domestic speech and foreign speech. So don't stand there and tell me under oath that you only focused on adversaries around the world, foreign actors. That's not true.
Ouch.
We're back live. You've never seen anything that effective from the prior speaker. It is great to have one of our most talented members in a position to be able to engage in great leadership. And I'll confess this to you. Mike Johnson is a bit of a cult figure in Florida's 1st congressional district, because as we have shared our questioning of attorneys general and FBI directors over the years, with Mike Johnson sitting next to me, you always get the best reactions, the thoughtfulness, the engagement. He is not only a terrific communicator and a terrific interrogator, he is a terrific listener. Take a listen and enjoy.
You know, there's a mirror moment we all have, a split second where you catch your reflection and think, is that?
We actually think that unborn life is a child and that there is a liberty interest there that is worthy of our defense and our protection and the values that undergird the American Constitution. I don't think that's too unreasonable. And by the way, if you use a phrase in this committee.
Yeah.
We are back live, and in just moments, I'll be heading to the House floor to vote on the first legislation under Speaker Johnson to express our support for the operations that Israel is conducting on their own behalf to root out terrorism in Gaza and certainly defend themselves from Hezbollah in the north. This is a land that's connected to our faith for 4,000 years, and we will not allow the Holy Land to be overrun by terror and death and destruction and harm to innocent civilians who have a right to live in Israel in a Jewish state in 2023. Mike Johnson's going to be great. I can't wait to vote for this bill. We've got to make sure that the war in Israel and the war in Ukraine are separate
Yes,
and dealt with
exactly.
separately, and that we are able to take separate votes on those questions, because while I'm certainly open-minded to support Israel if there is an actual articulated need that they have that's not being met by the funds we're already sending there on auto pay pursuant to a memorandum of understanding, I do not believe that the cause for Israel somehow has to carry with it the political anchor that is tens of billions more for Ukraine.
Exactly.
We have sent enough to Ukraine.
Too much.
We need to get out of that war in Europe.
Yes.
And there's a risk here with us extended in Ukraine, extended in the Middle East, that our deterrence in the Pacific Rim will be so diminished that China would take action against Taiwan or otherwise that they wouldn't if we weren't so overstretched. So there'll be more on what we're dealing with around the globe soon. There'll be more from Speaker Johnson. There'll be more Firebrand. Make sure that you have notifications turned on, that you're subscribed, leave us a comment or a 5-star review. Roll the credits.
All right. So there we go. So that was very interesting, folks. I hope it was interesting for you. I enjoy the thought that goes into this, the articulation of principles. You hear in these people's speech when they're when they're lit, when they're awake, like these guys are. You can see the little threads of constitutionalism, the threads of timeless principles. You can hear in their words the threads of biblical thinking and you can hear clear rationalization and critical thinking. That is the kind of representative you need. Someone who's going to go there, and yes, there's a steep learning curve with all this, but it's really fascinating for me. I really think that I would enjoy that and thrive in that. And so with that, let me just show you this one final screen here, and then we'll be shutting it down for the night. We've been on almost an hour and a half here. So anyways, let me just show you this final screen here. And yeah, Elaine, I'm glad you liked it. You all please like, share, follow. And let me throw this on here. Remember to go to usborderpatriot.com, usborderpatriot.com. I am throwing my name in the hat for Congress, so I need donations as well. But let's jump on this. Let me show you this here real quick. Here we go. I'm going to show you this one last screen. And so you may recall that one of the committees that Mike Johnson was on is the Republican Study Committee. And so let me just give you a real quick overview of it right here. And I'm just going to read basically. The Republican Study Committee, RSC, has served as the conservative caucus of House Republicans and a leading influencer on the right side since its original founding in 1973. This Republican Study Committee exists to bring like-minded House members together to promote a strong, principled legislative agenda that will limit government, strengthen our national defense, because when America is strong, the world is at peace, boost America's economy, preserve traditional values, and balance our budget. And so that's why this is one of the committees that the new Speaker, Mike Johnson, has been on. And it certainly is a vein or a thread, a continuation of why I am excited about this gentleman becoming the Speaker of the House. Now, we're going to be looking at him as we should, trust but verify, be ready to hold accountable. And we're out here on the outside. I'm glad that there are people currently in the House that are willing to do that, willing to face the heat, willing to face scrutiny and to be ostracized and demonized and all that, but they're doing it for the cause, a righteous cause. They're doing it for what is better and best for America. And in order to continue our freedoms, in order to continue this, the blessings of our land. And it takes people that are willing to fight for traditional, for conservative principles, folks. That is so important. A nation that turns its back on God is a fallen, corrupt, soon to be erased nation. And so it is critically important that we send reinforcements up to Washington, D.C. If you go to my website, usborderpatriot.com, there's a place to donate. Stay tuned. Very important announcement coming up about my plan to be on the Republican ballot, here in Texas, Congressional District 23, for the upcoming March 2024 primary. More on that, more robust information. Of course, I'm gonna fill it in for you. But please go to my website, US Border Patriot. Please like, share, follow this presentation. Share it with your friends. An informed populace, an aware populace is a strong and formidable populace. And so as we arm ourselves with knowledge, we can be more effective in how we tackle on the issues of life, how we take on the issues of life, and how we hold our government in check. Because look, folks, it's growing. They just want more power. And in order to gain their power, they will go to any means, any extreme to hold on to power. And so all that stands between tyranny and freedom is we, the people. So remember that. So tonight, I just want to sign off. I want to say God bless you. Thank you for joining me. Please like, share, follow. Go to my platforms. I'm on X. I am on YouTube, Frank Lopez Jr., U.S. Border Patriot. Facebook certainly going to be adding more to this. Go to the website, usborderpatriot.com, and please donate. So good night, folks. God bless you. Stay safe. Pray for our new Speaker of the House. Pray for those that are in authority. Please pray for them. And remember that it's always darkest before the dawn. Storms come into our lives, but pray through them, and they'll go away eventually. So take care. Good night.